You're listening to KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine.
The opinions and views expressed in this program do not reflect those of KUCI, its management, or the UC Board of Regents. To find out more about this talk show or other talk shows broadcasting on KUCI, log on to our website at kuci.org or check out the latest program guide.
This is Ashton Marcus, and I'm on location at Ruskin Group Theater for the world premiere of The Joy Wheel. Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. And I'm here with...
Hi, Jason Alexander. How are you?
Great. Well, first of all, I'm a fantastic fan of yours. George Costanza from Seinfeld.
Thank you.
Basically, with all the stuff you can be doing, why do you want to do this show?
Well, clearly because the show spoke to me. It's, I think it is very relevant. I think it's very timely. I think it has a lot to say. Thank you. See, and there's a review. It's about what's happening to a lot of people in the country right now, and it's very funny. It's very entertaining. It's very touching. It just, it spoke to me. You do things because they speak to you.
I agree. I thought it was hilarious. It reminded me a little bit about the 80s about Seinfeld, and also about the Trumpian era going on around. So I thought it was just very timely, and it struck a lot of things. Now, question: as a director, 80% of your job is casting. What do you look for in your casting?
You have an idea in your head of what the characters might come off as, what qualities they embody. In a show like this, you're looking for people that have comedic ability. You're looking for people that have. In a theater this small, the actors have to be able to work very simply. You don't want to see the sausage being made. So you're looking for a range of ability. You're looking to see how the material sits on people and to see how they sit on it. And there's a little magical alchemy that has to happen. So.
This actually struck me because actually I'm from San Francisco. There's actually something called Playland. It used to be there. It's not there anymore. And I was like, are they talking about that? A lot of the plays, it just struck things like, about working hard, about fighting with your wife, about what am I going to do with the future. That all just hit me.
Yeah, that's kind of the world that a lot of people are looking at right now. Is their communities, their jobs, the country that they thought they knew, especially for older people of the age of these characters. The world is changing on them, and I find that a lot of people in the middle of the country, a lot of people in conservative neighborhoods, part of what they are so concerned about is that they don't recognize the changes happening in the world, and they think it's leaving them behind, and they are understandably frightened by that or concerned by that. So this is a play that I think talks to them in a gentle way, and tries to understand a little bit of what they're going through.
Well, I love the play. I love the quirky characters. I love the direction on it. Thank you very much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with...
Excellent. I am Dan Florek. Well, we're here at the Ruskin Theater, and it's opening night, and I love this play. It's been a wonderful experience, and I think it's become even more than I hoped it would be, and I'm loving doing it with a great cast, terrific script, and I love our director, Jason.
Great. And which character did you play?
I played the character Frank. You kind of have to see the play, but the point is this: Frank is a guy who is almost kind of an invisible guy. He does everything and no one ever kind of acknowledges. And throughout the play, he starts to get the courage and realize where he is and know that he has to make changes. And he does those changes for and with his wife. And I think he comes out in a very good place at the end.
I think he's kind of like the backbone of America. It's like these are the guys who actually build the roads. They're the plumbers. They're like the guys who actually, make your cars and all that. They're unsung heroes, but they actually, they're the reason why we're such a great country and all that. But they feel like, what have I really done with my life? You know what I mean?
Well, there's a part of that. I mean, there is definitely a sense of him being everyman, and I agree with that. He's a blue-collar guy from the Midwest. And see, that's a big part of it, because you do everything, and you do it well, and all of a sudden, after 45 years, people are like, well, here's a plaque. And, you can feel unappreciated or certainly underappreciated. And luckily, he has a lovely, wonderful, supportive wife who helps him see that he is more than that and that he can indeed be appreciated.
Also, yeah, I saw the family. I love that about it. It was such a weird thing that there were echoes like from my childhood. Like, remember, I actually grew up in San Francisco. There was actually something called Playland, in which was just a park there. And it was like, you guys were talking about that. No, you weren't. They weren't talking about Playland. They were talking about something that just struck everybody. It's like
I think everybody knows a Playland or whatever it's called. Seven Flags, whatever it is. Everybody has been there at some point, and there was some favorite ride. There was something that truly affected you. And to have it come back in this play because of what Stella says, it's really kind of wonderful, and it leaves us, I think, on a pretty terrific high note. The crisis is over. There's still a lot of work to do, but I see hope here.
Also loved all the comedy. The actors were fantastic. The Tommy, some pretty interesting characters there that were kind of, larger than life and all that, which I thought was really exciting too. So I really enjoyed the performance tonight.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I think it's a great group of people. I did not know any of the other actors, but friends of mine did. And when I showed up, to me, it was a real treat. It was like a treasure chest of talent.
Yeah. Well, I really loved the performance tonight. I loved your performance also. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great time.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. Now I'm here.
Gina Hecht.
I had loved even Mork and Mindy's. I just love that show. It was one of my favorite shows.
Okay.
I remember you from that. I was just a very big fan of yours.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, question. Basically, which character you played tonight?
I played the character of Stella, who is this gorgeous soul who finds herself at a time in life where she and her husband are at a crisis in their lives.
You remind me a lot of my wife. Basically, we have our problems. We do things, but when we do things, it's the fights we have are for things that we actually have tried to do for each other. It's like we plan something for the evening night. She doesn't want to do it. So I planned this thing for you, and it's like that's the fight about it. It's never about like having an affair or gambling or anything. It's about I did this for you. You know what I mean?
Right. That's very interesting. That is what they fight about in this play. Not fight about, but miscommunicate, and he thinks he's doing this wonderful thing for her, and it's the very thing she doesn't want done. So
again, this play actually struck a lot of chords in me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's kind of I actually grew up in San Francisco. There's actually something called Playland. It's not around anymore. It was on the beach. It was like just a couple of rides in there, really small. And there was actually the wheel in there.
Oh, interesting.
Is he talking about this?
Oh, wow.
And, a lot of the play was like that. We basically just struck this chord. It's like, how did he know? You know what I mean?
That's very interesting. I wasn't familiar with the joy wheel. We had something else when I was growing up that wasn't quite what that is. But yeah, I do. When he describes it in the play, it's so beautiful. I feel like I know what it is now.
Well, I love the comedy in it. Some of it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Some of the characters were pretty dark and all that. But somehow, it's weird how you can make a dark character like that funny and at the same time feel really kind of terrified.
Yeah, I know. I don't think I've ever seen a play that goes quite this funny and quite this dark all in one evening.
I think it's because sometimes it's so real. It's like, how the Trumpians, the middle class white guys, they're kind of losing, their place. It's like being retired when you're 40 and you got nothing to look forward to. It's kind of like, anarchy. You're worried about anarchy. Yeah. What's going to happen? It jokes about real stuff. That's why it's so, so weird.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I don't know that they're Trumpians per se. They're Republicans with solid Christian values in a background, and they care deeply about humanity, and so their values are reflected more as Republican. But but not necessarily Trump supporters. I mean, we never say that we're Trump supporters. And I personally, I don't think Stella is. I don't think my character is. I think she's a Republican, but I don't think she voted for Trump.
Well, I think one of the other characters is a Trump supporter.
Well, that's for sure. That's true. But not me.
Well, I love the performance. I love your performance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with
Mar8 Sterling. It's good to see you again, and just glad to be doing theater again at the Ruskin Group.
And which character did you play tonight?
I play Stuart. Stuart's a complicated dude. He's a prepper. He's preparing for the future, sort of with bug-out bunkers and bug-out plans and all that. He's very committed to what he believes in and thinks. He's also kind of a little bit lost, and I think he's reaching for things like that to give him a sense of security and safety in the world.
I loved your character. I always love the characters you play, whether you're playing Stalin or you're playing some Irish gambler who's addicted to gambling. So much depth in your characters, so much they have to say.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I guess that's what I'm drawn to. I feel really lucky I've gotten to play some of these characters. When you get writing like Ian McCrae's in this and some of those other parts you mentioned, if you have a script like that, that's what I look for, because then it just then there's something to do. And these writers who have created characters who are interesting, and yeah, it's funny, but they still have real heart to them. There's substance. So I'm grateful to get a run across scripts that make my job easier.
If my viewers decide to come out and see this piece, what should they expect to see?
You're definitely going to get some humor. You'll get some dark comedy. You'll get some really fleshed out characters. You get a sweet, good message about love, and it also is a play that gets into kind of the moment we're in our country, of opposing forces and how people deal with that. And I'm hoping a little bit of a surprise. It'll surprise you a little bit in terms of how these characters do what they do, and then the choices they make in the face of how to deal with their future and things like that.
Weird thing about this play, it kind of struck me in certain things. Like it would say something like, it would talk about I'm from San Francisco. There's a place called Playland there, and I'm not sure if you know what it is. It used to be there. It's not there anymore. It had these rides in them exactly like it was talking about. It just struck a chord to me. It was all the plays with that. Sometimes she would talk about a pool, and then I would get it. She would talk about about her children. I would get it. He would talk about working hard, for 45 years at a place. I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I do know what you mean. I think what that makes me think about is, again, that's Ian's writing and Jason's directing and the actors. But I think it starts with Ian really creating characters that, even though they're in a little bit of a world, we're not quite sure where they are, what year it is, they have substance, and you get that they're real people. And Jason did an amazing job, as did all my other cast members, of sort of bringing those characters out. And so it's a little bit magical. There's a touch of that, but at the same time, you believe them.
Definitely funny, definitely hilarious. Because your characters, usually you play these really serious characters like Stalin and a murderer. You played a character. You made him kind of intense, kind of dark, scary, but also extremely funny.
It's been a real treat to do some comedy. And again, the minute I read this play, we did a reading of it, and I went, I hope I can do this. And luckily with my TV schedule, it's worked out. But yeah, because I loved it, because there is humor. And he's an interesting character. You can just go so many different ways with it. You can go, sometimes you can hit the funny lines dark, and then you can hit the dark lines funny, and it's a treat to find a character like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I love the performance. I especially love your performance tonight. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks, man. It's great to see you again. Thanks a lot.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. And I'm here with...
My name is Lee Garlington. Well, first of all, honored that you came to our play tonight. This is our opening night of The Joy Wheel, and we have had a lot of fun putting it on. It's very exciting now to have our first audience.
Great, and which character did you play?
I play Margie. She's sort of the wild one. Well, I think what it is, it's a story of a couple, Gina and Dan's characters, who are at a crossroads, and they're each being pulled in different directions by their friends. So I'm sort of the wild one, pulling her towards her sexuality and openness, and Dan is being pulled towards sort of the dark side.
I thought it was Very funny. Basically, almost like an 80s type comedy where you basically have, like, you know how they always have this colorful friend who's like wilder, larger than life, like exciting and all that.
Yeah.
And they're really hilarious. That was you.
That was me, yeah. And it is set in Joy, Illinois. So we didn't like specify what time period it was because we do mention Grenada. But other than that, it is sort of that Midwestern sensibility of not being affected a lot by the political climate, but more about their own little worlds.
Also, this thing struck a chord with me on certain things. It's kind of like they would say something that would hit me from my childhood or an experience I'm going through. There's actually something called Playland from where I'm actually from. I'm from San Francisco. And actually, I thought they were talking about Playland, but they weren't talking about Playland. It's just something that hits everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the playwright, what he's talking about is actually a ride in Santa Cruz, where he's from his childhood.
Well, I love the performance. I thought you guys were hilarious. I love the characters. Like, your character was larger than life and hilarious. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with
Ian McRae. I wrote a play called The Joy Wheel, and it was directed by Jason Alexander, and it opened tonight at the Ruskin Theater, which is located at 3000 Airport Avenue at the Santa Monica Airport.
So, question, why did you decide to write this piece?
You know, I wrote the play about five years ago, and it started out as a writing exercise between Frank and Stella, the two main characters. And I can't remember exactly when all the other elements came into it, but I knew that it was something to do with female power and empowerment. And I just got them talking or arguing, I should say, and I just sort of, my imagination, I just followed their train of argument and thought, and it turned into the Joy Wheel.
I really like this piece. It had this weird kind of foreshadowing in my mind, because there's actually a place in San Francisco. I grew up from San Francisco, called Playland.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that what you wrote?
Well, I grew up in Santa Cruz. So Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk was very much like Playland. And we still have our beach boardwalk. I'm not sure if Playland is gone. But we had a lot of the same rides. Yeah, in that Joy Wheel, that disc, we call it the pancake, but it was actually, the research I did, that same Joy Wheel ride, you could find it in Edwardian times in England and in Australia and Germany and around the country. It was a very popular ride, like a merry-go-round. Yeah.
Yeah, my point is basically you didn't write about it, but it kind of hit a piece of my background that kind of resonated. And a lot of this play was like they would say subtle things about maybe survivalism,
right?
About fighting, about marriage and all that.
Right.
It would just resonate with me, and I don't know why. Just like that, the way that the Playland resonated with me.
Yeah. Well, it's for Frank, it started out as him, doing it like an earthquake kit or an emergency kit with some batteries and some candles and some, a few things put away for a rainy day, trying to be prepared, a generator. And Frank has a little tendency to go a little overboard on things. And he just kept going and he kept going, and before he knew it, he had found himself, sort of falling, between trying to really honestly protect his family and be conscientious about, if something goes wrong, but he just went way too far, and he got himself involved in this crazy, survivalist group, and he kept it all from his wife, and he was all doing it for the right reasons, but it ended up, coming back to bite him.
If my viewers decide to come by and see this piece, what should they expect to see?
I hope they see a couple that's struggling. That's maybe the world is spinning a little too fast for them, because these are people in their 60s, and maybe they've been forgotten a little bit or looked past, but they're just as vital and important to our country as anybody. And I think you'll find a very, very I think you'll enjoy the journey that you take with them as they kind of get pulled in separate directions and then find their way back, to the reasons that brought them together, 40 years ago when they first were married.
Well, I agree. Basically, I feel that, first of all, like you actually said, it gets him in trouble, but he didn't intend to. That's the things that always get you in trouble. You never intend. You always want to do it for family, but it's, I'm not talking about having an affair. I'm talking about, saying, okay, hey, I just bought an RV. We're going to travel around the country.
Right.
Why didn't you tell me I don't want to travel around? Things like that. That's all married life. It's compromise. It was just such a beautiful slice of life. It echoed so much with so many things that are going on in this world. With Trump, with middle class white men actually losing their jobs to immigrants. It just spoke to all that. So I thought it was just so incredibly timely. That I just thought it was just wonderfully done.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hope you come see it.
Well, thank you once again for being on the show.
It plays Thursdays through Saturday at 8 and Sunday at 2. The Ruskin Theater.
All right. Thank you once again for being on the show. The Joy Wheel will be playing at Ruskin Group Theater from February 15th to March 24th. For more information, go to www.ruskingrouptheater.com. This is Ashton Marcus, and I'm on location at Greenway Court Theater for their presentation of Miss America's Ugly Daughter. Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with
Bara Grant. Tonight I performed a play that I wrote called Miss America's Ugly Daughter. And that's what it's about. It's about feeling not very pretty when you're little, and even if you get to be pretty when you grow up, you always carry with you the sense that you are not pretty, that you are ugly.
Every time I meet someone, and they come up with this very interesting story, I'm just amazed. I'm sometimes shocked that people actually went through this, but you just seem so incredibly normal, you know what I mean?
Well, if you knew me better, you know I am not incredibly normal. But a lot of people survive way worse childhoods than I had. And the thing we forget is that unfortunately they stay with us, even though we achieve greatness in whatever field we're in. You remain a child somewhere in your soul, and if you're not treated well, you remain a kind of sad, crippled child. But we all survive.
So if my viewers decide to come out and see this piece, what should they expect to see?
Well, it's extremely funny in a very dark way. It's darkly comedic. And it has layers then of a great drama as well. Because you can't have laughter without tears unless you're just writing a pure comedy. But this is both. And the audiences seem to love it. We've been sold out night after night. And it seems to be working.
Actually, I obviously watch a lot of theater, and people actually write a lot of screenplays. People actually try to make up people like your mother. She's a classical theater character.
Right, you couldn't make my mother up. She existed. And you only see a little section of her here. And she did pass away, which allowed me to write what I wrote for tonight. But behind these stories are other stories and other stories. She was larger than life. She was a real character. And she did a lot of things in her life, but growing up with her was a very specifically scary experience.
Actually, she grew up in a very interesting time. It was a time when women really didn't have the same rights as men. Even now, they don't get paid the same. But back then, it was even worse. And she was in a business where you were treated like a piece of meat. So maybe she was going through her own problems at that time, probably.
Yes, she did. She won when she was only 21, and she was a Jew, the first and only ever Jew. And she won at a time of great anti-Semitism in this country because in 1945, most of America blamed the Jews for the war. And so she went out and she saw signs that said no Jews, no dogs. She wasn't allowed to, fill out the term, the year that she had, because people didn't want her. The sponsors didn't want her posing in their bathing suits. Women didn't want her kissing their sons who were vets returning from the war. They blamed her, and she had to stop halfway through her tour because no one wanted her. And that's when the Anti-Defamation League called her and said, you've got to work for us and speak out against hatred and bigotry to kids in high school who are still young enough where they can feel compassion for people who are treated badly just because they're Jewish or black. And she made quite a difference. She was really a brilliant speaker.
I actually once spoke to a person and I asked them, why do you do this? Because they actually expressed a lot about their childhood too. And they said, this is actually cheaper than therapy. That's why.
Right. Well, if you can take anything and put it into an art form, be it painting or writing, it helps. It's curative.
Yeah, also it brings back someone said to me, all great artists have to suffer if they want to do dramatic art. Do you think actually your suffering actually created this? I mean, do you think you have to suffer to be a great artist?
No, I don't think so. I think I think it helps. It helps to have pain and to work from pain. But I know there are artists who were happy when they were little and just became great, and I envy them. But the suffering or the pain that I had did give me a lot of things to say. But I transformed most of it into comedy, and that's how to get it across.
Yeah, well, I love the piece because, again, I think Orson Bean once told me, basically, there's black comedy, there's Jewish comedy. The reason it's so funny is because they decided, instead of crying about their pain, to laugh about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. There's nothing better than laughing away a tear.
Well, I love the piece. I loved your piece also in it. And actually, it makes me feel, I guess it also makes me feel a little better about my childhood, too. Because I went through some things, and I sometimes don't understand why I went through those. But when I see someone like you, and I see your story and all that, I realize, maybe it made me a better person. Maybe my father, maybe my parents, they were probably going through some pretty bad stuff, too. Because our prior generation was pretty bad. But I just love the piece that you did tonight.
Oh, you're so lovely. Thank you for coming, and tell all your friends.
All right, thank you very much for being on the show again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with
Monica Piper. I have the wonderful pleasure of playing the voice of Bess Meyerson, but you don't see me on stage, you just hear me, but yet we feel like it's a two-character play. I'm a comedian and an actor, and my play, Not That Jewish, is back in L.A. It ran off Broadway for 7 months, and I'm just thrilled that it all worked out so that I could do this. And I'm a stand-up comic, so I really related to what you were talking about. If you can't change something, you can try to find the funny in it, and that'll see you through. So this is heaven for me to do this, to work with Mar8, to work with this great team of people in a wonderful theater and fabulous audiences. And she's got a story to tell, and she's a brilliant writer, a brilliant performer. And and it's really fun for me because everything else I do, I'm Monica Piper. In my stand-up, I'm me. In my play, I'm me. And here, I get to not be me. And that's great. I get to be someone else. And I love it.
Okay, and what's your take on that character? What's she like?
Oh, well, she's two different characters throughout the whole show, because in her calls, her night, she can't sleep. She's 70, she can't sleep, and she's becoming more and more desperate. But then in the flashbacks, she's 30, 40, 50, so it's so much fun, because then I'm Bess, I'm sophisticated and famous, and, if you don't like it, too bad, to my daughter. And I'm a mother, so it's really weird being a crappy mother, But it's wonderful for me. Bara has written the most beautiful, funny words for me to say, and I love doing it.
Would you say she was a lost soul, misguided, angry, frustrated?
Yes, well, only toward the end. She was only that way toward the end. Throughout her life, she was very confident. She was very oblivious to those around her. Her fame is that's all she knew. That's all she expected. So when those things started to decline, she was at a loss. And for the first time, she realized she needed her daughter, whom she had treated so terribly as a child, when she was a child. So it's, Bara has written just the most beautiful piece with a true beginning, middle, and end, and that's why audiences leave so satisfied, because they've seen this full, wonderful show.
If my viewers decide to come out and see this piece, what should they expect to see?
A wonderful evening of theater. They should expect to see the metamorphosis of a child who thinks she's ugly and throughout her life struggles under the shadow of her iconic mother, and how she finds herself at the end and realizes she's beautiful.
I agree. Basically, it's kind of like a butterfly. Basically, you look at the ugly duckling, right, becoming a beautiful swan and all that.
Becoming a swan.
But that takes a lot of pain. First of all, obviously the nursery rhyme said a little bit about it, but it doesn't magnify the horror or basically the trauma that goes through. But in a sense, it kind of develops you. It kind of realizes, no, that's not true. I mean, not only are some things true, but these things aren't true. And now I realize that. And you know what I mean?
But that's the beauty. The audience discovers this throughout the show. They themselves, I think it causes them to reflect on their lives and moments in their life that they could see and see the beauty in, and see how pain can, she says it right in the play when she says suffering can lead to some very good things, and we see that it truly does.
Well, I love the performance tonight. I love your performance in it also. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Miss America's Ugly Daughter will be playing at Greenway Court Theater from February 8th to March 24th. For more information, go to www.missamericasUglyDaughter.com. This is Ashton Marcus, and I'm on location at the Pasadena Playhouse for their presentation of Ragtime the Musical. Hi, this is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with
Bryce Charles. Hi, I play Sarah. I'm in the production of Ragtime at the Pasadena Playhouse. I'm born and raised in California. Always been on the West Coast, and musical theater has just always been my passion, and it's been amazing being able to pursue this passion at the Pasadena Playhouse. Sarah is she's a very complex character. We see her in the show, we see her at her lowest point, and that's not exactly how you're introduced to all the other characters. Everyone else, you're introduced to them in the middle of their journey, and they're aspiring for something, whereas Sarah, she's kind of hit rock bottom, and through the progression of the show, you find her sort of regaining her strength, regaining her joy in life, and it's been amazing sort of playing that character arc and all of those complexities and adding all of those layers to her character throughout the course of the show.
Yeah, actually, one of the reasons I wanted you on my show was because of your character. It had such a dramatic, traumatizing backstory.
Yes, 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 yes. I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't seen it. The show hasn't been on the West Coast in quite some time. So Sarah's been heartbroken. She's been abandoned by a man that she loves. When she gets her heart broken, she actually is the one to leave, in fact. And she finds herself isolated. She finds herself in a very dark place mentally. And with that sort of trauma, she's driven to do something that she would never do otherwise. And that I don't think, anyone could really bring themselves to do. And so it's a really interesting place to be in because we don't see her when she sort of commits this act, this dark, it is essentially considered a crime. And it's really emotional to have to dive into that every single night. It's really heavy material to portray. And to jump right into a song, Sarah's first song, the first time we, hear her sing and we hear her story, is a song called Your Daddy's Son. And for me, it's a heartbreaking piece. And I hope that when people see it, they see the emotional struggle that she's gone through. It's hard to watch someone break down to a point where they don't even recognize themselves.
If my viewers decide to come by and see this piece, Ragtime, what should they expect to see?
The story has so much heart. The story is truly a story about aspiring for the American dream. We see three different families, three different groups of people aspiring to make it in America. We see a rich white family in New Rochelle who are sort of struggling to maintain their stability in their life as the world around them changes. We see a Jewish immigrant coming to America for the first time with his daughter, and we see how he truly is aspiring towards that sort of stereotypical, American dream cliche, which is actually something that I think a lot of people can still relate to. A lot of people the American dream ideal is something that has become, I think, sort of washed over, and people have become kind of cynical to it. But I think there's something still there that people have a dream and they come here to aspire or to achieve that goal. And then we have the musician in Harlem, the black musician, who falls in love with a woman and doesn't know how to love her properly. And then they go through their ups and downs in their relationship. And they end up finding their happiness all too late, unfortunately. But they still end up finding it, and it's really beautiful to see that happen on stage. It's three very distinct stories that come together in a very unexpected way. It's a beautiful tale of how America is truly a melting pot, and we can all come together to, as cheesy as it may sound, come together to live happily ever after. There is a way that we can all achieve our American dream.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly call the play cheesy because it was very dark. I mean, it pulled no punches. It
well,
was pretty bad.
For me, the idea of happily ever after, I know can it sounds like a fairy tale, and living in America is no fairy tale. Living in America at the turn of the 20th century was definitely not a fairy tale, and so it's hard to put that sort of phrase a part of a story that, like you said, is very dark. But for me, that is what happens at the end of the show, which I think is so beautiful, to remind people that no matter what turmoil may arise, no matter what trials and tribulations you go through, there is a way to find happiness and to find joy when we all accept one another and when we all come together as one.
Okay, now your character, again, your character, your arc was not the primary arc, one of those primary arcs you were talking about, but what does that say about the African-American woman? With the trauma you went through, I thought it was the most intense character in there. What does it say about the African-American woman's experience in this time, and I guess in this times right now?
Well, I think it's really interesting that you brought that up. That's actually a really fascinating point. Sarah is definitely not the main storyline. She's not the main arc. She is sort of an accessory to Cole House's story. He is, the black male figure, and he is one of the main characters in the show. We only learn about Sarah through Cole House's eyes. And so, there it is right there. We see a filter version of Sarah. When Cole House brings her up, he just talks about how beautiful she is, how she's like an angel, how she's perfect, how, the Lord sent her down to him specifically to make him happy and to fulfill his life. But really, Sarah is her own human being. She is a person who is not perfect. She is very flawed, and she is very strong. She's not easily broken, which goes to show that when we see her as a, broken down, tragic mess, essentially, what in the world got her to that point? You know what I mean? It's a fascinating idea to sit and think, well, what drove her to that place? What broke her heart? And it was, this man who didn't know how to love her properly, who prayed for her and thought she was this, pristine, perfect doll-like, creature, that she just wasn't even really treated like a human. And then when she, reaches her breaking point, she gets to speak for herself, which I think is lovely within the show. She gets to have her own song about her side of things. Yes, Cole House, loved her for a time, but he also had other women that he loved, and he loved his music more than anything else. And, when he broke my heart, I had to leave. That's essentially what she says in the song. And when she's on her own and with his child left, to deal with this on her own, and this child reminds her of the man that broke her heart, it's a very troubling place to be in. And in a time when, having a child out of wedlock was something that was just unheard of. It was unspeakable. It could not happen. And if it did happen, then you were cast out. So she essentially cast herself out, and that's something that I think women, not just black women, but I think women in general, are still fighting for their own voice, for their own control over their bodies and their control over their lives. And black women specifically, I think, are still being viewed as an accessory to the the strong black man. But that is a product of society, and that is something that I think is very relevant in a lot of the feminist movements that are going on right now. And I think that's why the show is so strong and powerful, is because it was a show written in I believe the 70s about a family, about many families in the turn of the 20th century. So we're talking like very early 1900s, and here we are in 2019, and we can very strongly relate to all of the messages about feminism and racism and racial prejudice, and also immigration. It's a show that I think, unfortunately, will be relevant for a very, very long time.
Okay, actually, 3 of your cast members I've actually had on my show before, and I'm very familiar with their work. I thought they were fantastic. What's your opinion about the cast?
I think the cast is spectacular. It's really been amazing in this rehearsal process, and then now being being 3 weeks into the show, to see everyone around me telling the story just with all that they have. They put so much heart into this material, and everyone is so darn talented. Sometimes I have to catch myself to not, get lost, just listening and enjoying the show. And honestly, backstage you'll find people will kind of sit in the wings or, watch the monitors downstairs just to keep reliving the show every night. It's something we can't ever get tired of, because everyone is so talented and kind. Everyone has such big hearts. And most of the cast are local. Most of the cast, I think all but one actually are local. Clifton Duncan, who plays our Cole House, he's from the East Coast, and he's absolutely spectacular. And it's been great as well, just seeing how we've all come together to tell this story.
Okay. Well, I love the story itself. In fact, your character, I think, it speaks to the modern era of the black woman who basically supports the black man. And you think that, they're like a secondary figure. No, I mean, think about it. Where would Barack Obama be without Oprah Winfrey? She was the one who really got him in there.
I mean, and also, you think of the strong, successful black man, but where would the strong, successful black man be without the woman who gave birth to him? And who raised him and who, nurtured him and fostered, there's the idea of man being strong and, being the breadwinner and all of these things, but there's also the, people forget that there has to be parents to raise and nurture. And I think Sarah is so important because, she has Cole House's son, and she loses herself for a time, but once she finds herself again, they are able to put forth a legacy, and they have a son who will carry on their legacy. And hopefully, in the world of the show, as Cole House and Sarah's son grows up, hopefully her legacy won't be lost. I think that's something that always gets overshadowed. Their son will live on and be the next strong black man, that will pursue his dream. And he'll talk probably about his father, who was the cool musician, and, he was the man who, raised his voice and tried to, take a stand. But will he talk about his mother, who, went through so much to have him, and then, to apologize to him and try and raise him, and then, essentially her memory, could get lost.
Well, I really love the show. Again, a lot of things we haven't even covered. Like, for example, Booker T. Washington with his opinion of how black man should be, separate but equal. Like, there was a Caucasian character who was just so oblivious. He said, "Oh, racist, no such thing as racist."
Right.
I mean, this is America. But there was a phrase that just summed it up. How could you have traveled so far but know so little about this world? So it was just very colorful, yeah.
It is very colorful. It's very powerful, too. And, again, those things are very relatable. I think those, Booker T and the voice of father, I think they both represent voices that we hear a lot in America, people who are kind of oblivious to the issues that are going on because they stay in their bubble where things are fine, nothing is wrong. And, as long as they have money and power and stability, then they're fine, but they don't see outside. They don't see past their own front door, and they can't see that there are so many other people in this country and in this world who don't have the same privileges that they do and don't have the same opportunities that they do. And then you have Booker T, someone who is trying to be a voice for the black community, but in doing so, he's saying, okay, let's be quiet, let's be good, let's show them that, we can be tame and that we can be proper. And hopefully if we keep our mouth shut, they'll just eventually start, seeing things our way, and they'll be more willing to negotiate with us, and be more willing to be open with us. But, you have people like Cole House, you have black men like Cole House who are like, well, no, we can't be quiet. We can't just wait around for them to give us privileges that we, should have been just born with. Let's take a stand and let's take some action. And action, quickly turns into violence. And so that's actually something that I think you see throughout history a lot. There's always, the peace versus violence, I think, approach to justice. And it's hard. It's a very slippery slope. It's really, when you get so passionate about something, Cole House tried to be calm. He tried to, approach things from a peaceful, calm, educated place. He tried to speak to the powers that be who were denying him his rights. They didn't listen, and they actually ended up, hurting, people that he cared about and defacing his property. And so at that point, that's when he turned to violence, and he reached his breaking point. And his breaking point looks very different than Sarah's. It looks very different than any other characters, because everyone's breaking point, I think, is something that's very unique to them. And his breaking point was action, was violence.
Okay. Well, I love the performance. I loved your performance also. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I loved chatting with you. Thank you.
Ragtime the Musical will be playing at the Pasadena Playhouse from February 5th to March 9th. For more information, go to www.pasadenaplayhouse.org. This is Ashton Marcus, and I'm on location at International City Theater for their presentation of Roger Bean's Life Could Be a Dream.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with...
I'm Roger Bean, the writer of Life Could Be a Dream.
So, question, why did you decide to write this piece anyway?
Well, I love this music. I love the 60s, and it's kind of, my mom's name is Lois, and the one female in the show, her name is Lois, so it's kind of a love letter to my mom and the music that she sang growing up in the house that I grew up in.
I'm told it's actually really hard to do a jukebox musical. In a sense, it's not because you don't have songs. It's because you have thousands of them, and you got to find the ones that kind of fit the story, fit the move, doesn't peak too early. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, it is a matter of finding how to take songs that are already written and weave them into the storyline. I mean, that's really kind of the trick. There are a lot of jukebox musicals that don't do that, and the song just starts, and you go, where did this come from? So I find it kind of a fun puzzle. I love doing puzzles. I love crossword puzzles. I love that kind of stuff. And so putting together a musical like this is putting together a puzzle for me, and it's very satisfying.
Also love the characters you did, because they were separate. They weren't like clones of each other. They were reflections of the 50s and of that time period. So again, I thought you did the characters very well.
Oh, thank you. They're all kind of pieces of my own personality. So and they're all crazy in their own right. So thank you.
I thought it was like James Dean, Richie Cunningham, the classical nerd, and also the good church boy, and also Sandra Dee.
Yes, a little bit of everything. Yes, and the church boy. I grew up as a church boy, so he's near and dear to my heart. The church boy.
Well, once again, I love the performance, and I love jukebox musicals because, most musicals, it's like one or two great songs, the rest of them you have to sit through. Here, you loved every single one of them, and also, again, the story follows along very well, too, also.
Yes, you do come in humming the songs, so it's kind of great.
Once again, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. And I'm here with...
Hi, I'm Hunter Barricachea. I play Eugene Johnson in Life Could Be a Dream. It's a fun jukebox musical written by Roger Bean, who's actually here right now. It's a jukebox musical. Everything is from the 50s and 60s. It's all the best doo-wop hits of all time. It's a good time. Great story, great characters, and the audience has a lot of fun with us.
Yeah, great. And which character did you play again?
Eugene Johnson, the kind of nerdy, dorky one. Eugene is honest. What I love about him is he doesn't really understand what's going on, but he's not stupid. He's very naive and lovable. He really looks up to everyone else around him, and he just tries to fit in as much as he can, but he's the sweetheart of the group. He really is. Yeah,
kind of awkward, kind of the stereotypical nerd character.
Oh, absolutely. No questions. That's why it's so fun.
Yeah, I loved your performance because, again, your character had so much color, and there was no minorities in this. There was no homosexuals. So again, the character actor was you. You were the most dynamic character actor. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. I don't want to say I disagree, but every character has its own levels. I was just fortunate to have a character that had the levels to get to the easiest. He's very obnoxious in his ways, and it's easier for me. So these other guys have the hardest time with it, but rightfully so. I mean, I got lucky with the easiest part.
If my viewers decide to come out and see this piece, what should they expect to see?
They should expect to see just a fun, loving story with a lot of heart, a lot of character, and a lot of good music. And they should expect to come in having fun. That's their mindset they should have.
Yeah. I always have this question: should you come for the music or for the drama? Because you guys are good theatrical actors, but the music was fantastic. It was music. You know how in a musical you hear a couple of great songs, and then you're just kind of sitting through the rest.
Absolutely.
These you love all the songs.
Exactly. I'm going to have to say for this show in particular, definitely the music, because the music is the story. It was very well written. The music helps move the story along as it should, and it just happens that they're some of the greatest hits of all time.
Awesome. well, I just have to say I loved your acting. I loved everyone else too. They were a nice ensemble cast, but it was a G-rated story though. And for me, I like shocking theater, but for a G-rated musical, this is actually very good.
I agree with that. Like I said, it's fun-loving, it's lighthearted, it's a nice change to the theater scene, and everyone needs to come experience it. It's a great time.
Yeah. Once again, I loved your performance. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm here with...
I'm Josie Montana McCoy, Josey, Montana, like the state, MCCOY. Just really excited to have been a part of this great show at ICT. It's my first time being here, and it's my first time doing a Roger Bean show. They are nothing but fun from start to finish.
Great, and which character did you play?
I was Denny of Denny and the Dreamers. Denny, he's kind of lazy, but he throws his laziness off on all of his friends. Well, at least those he thinks is his friends. He sort of keeps them prisoner as his friends and makes them do his bidding while he figures out his own life.
I thought it was a bit of kind of like a Richie Cunningham type character, all-American boy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think I maybe pulled from that a little bit. I think that's who my dad was before he went to college, and we know that Denny didn't go to college. So,
if my viewers decide to come by and see this piece, what should they expect to see?
Nothing but a really, really fun time. It is. We sing so many wonderful songs from the 50s and 60s, and it's just a really good time. We all get to sing together, have a lot of fun together, and the audience has a great time as well.
I thought it was a real jukebox musical, and I mean jukebox musical because it was based on songs from the 50s. Also, the cast, they had a strong theatrical background, so there'd be a lot of acting. So even though, again, it was more of a musical, there was a lot of strong acting in it. But what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. This group has been amazing, and it's so fun to just work on a new piece together in such a small cast and see how everybody makes everything work for them and for their character from the words that Roger wrote.
Also, I have to note that it was G-rated, too, because for a lot of theater, I can't recommend them bringing children. But actually, I think I could bring a family to this. I think I'd bring little kids to this. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Man, I tell you, if your kids like to sing, then they'll love to hear all these songs. Because I remember listening to these songs when I was a kid from my parents' jukebox or record player. But it's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Okay, once again, fantastic performance. I loved you in Newsies also. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Good to talk to you.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. I'm here with
Marissa Matthews. I play Lois Franklin in ICT's Life Could Be a Dream. Lois is, she is ballsy. She goes after what she wants. She is, for that time period, I think she's very progressive and she really speaks her mind. She goes exactly for what she wants, and she also sort of stands in her feelings and emotions, which I think is very rare for women of that time. She is hearts on her sleeve, just a lovely, lovely person to portray.
Does she remind you of, say, Sandra Dee or of Annette Funicello?
No, not so much, but I would say contemporary-wise, I've been channeling Midge Maisel from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That television show has definitely inspired just me researching that time period and just sort of more of a progressive female.
If my viewers decide to come out and see this piece, what should they expect to see?
They should expect to see lovely, dreamy, classic tunes from the 1950s and 60s, some great dancing from the guys, and it's like a fun sitcom, a live sitcom.
Yeah, this is definitely a jukebox musical, and I underscore jukebox musical because the music's from the 50s. This is the type you would actually hear.
Yes, in an actual jukebox, yeah, exactly.
But with jukebox musicals, I usually ask, should you come for the music or for the acting, the drama? What are your thoughts on that?
I think this piece actually does a little bit of both. I think actually Roger Bean, who's standing with me, he incorporated so much of a story that you can really follow. The music furthers the story along, so it's not just standalone songs. It actually says something about the characters and gives insight into what's going on in the show. So a little bit of both.
Well, I do agree because basically, first of all, it's a G-rated story, so you can bring your kids to it. But again, it's also a lot of good songs. So again, it's like in some musicals, there's like one or two great songs, and you're kind of just sitting through the rest. Every single song you're gonna love.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I loved your character.
Thanks.
I love the strong female character because in the 50s, it's really you don't see strong women characters. I love the way way it was kind of like the organizer, kind of heart behind, kind of the central core behind it too, the entire story.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It got coming into this knowing that I was going to be surrounded by these 4 male actors. I knew that my presence as a female was meant to not just be an object, but really be a heart. So.
Okay, once again, I loved your performance. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Life Could Be a Dream will be playing at International City Theater from February 22nd to March 10th. For more information, go to www.internationalcitytheater.org.